Since AI is so open-ended, you can interact with generative AI through countless combinations to generate all sorts of inputs. That being said, not every type of input generates helpful output. Generative AI requires context and information to produce accurate and relevant responses. That's where prompt engineering comes in. So a prompt is a natural language text that requests a generative AI model to perform a specific task. And prompt engineering is the process of guiding generative AI to desired outputs. Some best practices to keep in mind to help you write better prompts to generate code is to be specific, reduce fluffy descriptions, separate instructions in context with delimiters, split complex tasks into simpler subtasks, and request code explanations. And we'll dive into some examples to really illustrate what we mean here. So be specific. First rule is to be specific and as detailed as possible. So a less effective version of a prompt would be create a header for my website. It's fine. You can give it to AI. You might find that you'll have to iterate quite a bit for it to be a header that you are comfortable with, which sometimes when you do not have very defined instructions yet or an idea of what you want to build, having this exploratory, not specific is fine. But if you do have a clear idea of what you want and what you want to build, it's often better to take that time to write out exactly what you mean. So the better version here, it's not just a header, but it's defining what exactly the requirements are for the header, how it should look, what the background color should be. So it's a slightly more specific prompt. Next up is reduce fluffy descriptions and imprecise descriptions. Here, the less effective version, can you please make a button that looks nice and show a message? What kind of message? What do you mean by nice? The better version is a lot more precise. What language are we using? What should the message say? What should the background color be? When possible, you want to be as unambiguous as possible. However, I wouldn't sweat prompts too much. You could always iterate. Again, if you don't have a clear idea, it's fine to just try it out. But when you can, try to reduce fluffy descriptions. Try to get the context that you need so you can be very precise. One way I also like to think about it is if I were going to give this instruction to a human, or rather, if someone gave this instruction to me, how much inference would I need to include to actually produce something usable? So if someone said, hey, Lola, go make a header, I would have to maybe do some research on what the header is for. What's the site? What languages are there? So there's a lot of missing context. So whenever you can, try to give AI that context. Next is separating context with a delimiter. Here I have the hashes. You can really use anything that you would like. I think the hashes work well. So the less effective version, you have basically the same prompt, but all of the code that you want to update is kind of jumbled in there. The better version, you're separating instruction and the context. And as you use more advanced models of AI, some of these rules may not necessarily be necessary, but as a general, if you are stuck with like a base model, or if you're using one of the more earlier models, these can help ensure better outputs. The next one here is splitting complex tasks. And I find this to be very helpful, especially in regards to when coding. So if I give AI coding, or if you're in a technology working with a technology that you're not super familiar with, this allows you to test, verify, and understand the code bit by bit by bit. If you throw, let's build a landing page, you have one Mongo prompt, you don't really know what's going on if things don't work as planned. And it is very common that your first prompt that you give to AI, the first code that you generate, will likely, very, very likely need some iteration. It will be harder for you to understand what pieces need to be iterated on. We'll see this a lot more especially when we get to some of the later projects where we can't always just visually confirm that what's happening is by looking at the output, unlike a landing page where you can kind of see the landing page. When we get to more advanced functionality, this is going to be even more important so we can test and verify each section bit by bit. And then the final here is request code explanation. So less effective, we're just giving requirements. Better is explain the generated code, explain what you did. Not only does it give the AI time to think and explain and verify and kind of match its output to your requirements, it's also helpful for us as the humans to understand what it built, have it explain it back in English, and then we can kind of use our brains to say, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, maybe I want to revisit this part of the code. It can be very helpful for the debugging and testing and verifying pieces.
Want to learn more? Head over to nocode.mba to access our premium courses from top no-code experts.